during the commercial break was from the mighty Pentakill. You can head to the official Pentakill website to grab your free copy of their Smite and Ignite album. Perfect tunes for ganking. Now I'm happy to be joined by Joe Miller and Trevor Quickshot Henry to break down Alliance's win in that last game, starting in picks and bans and starting with the obvious, obviously, Frog and Nivea coming in.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting to see Alliance pulling that curveball out. A lot of the other picks were quite standard. We expected a Jax, we expected Eve, we expected Elise. I didn't expect the first pick Jax. Alliance have been playing against it so often and doing well. That caught ROCCAT off guard. And then, of course, Nivea is a champion that we haven't seen at this level of play for a while. Froggen went unkilled, 1-0-7. He went 11-0-14 at All-Star Games. So his last two showings on Anivia, 0 deaths accrued. It was great play.
And I think the great point about Anivia is, you said we've not seen him for a while. We've also only just really seen Kog'Maw coming back into favor. If we think back to when Anivia and Kog'Maw were really popular, they worked so well as a combo because you just can't get past Anivia. She can wall you off so far. Kog'Maw's still got that range into it. Froggen said it fits so perfectly in the meta, and I think the return of Kog'Maw really helps that.
Absolutely, and as he mentioned, we knew we would get it in the late game because in the early game, we got to say, kind of a rough start there, and ROCCAT coming out the gate swinging.
Yeah, so ROCCAT actually made a few good plays early on. They handled the initial lane swap pretty well. They traded objectives. They got the first dragon. The problem is the Alliance composition was always going to outscale, and it was always going to be... The question for me was, how were ROCCAT going to get past Anivia? How were they going to counter his wave clear and his defensive power? They didn't build up enough of a lead early on, and unfortunately, when their early game movements didn't yield the lead they were expecting, they just made riskier and riskier plays, and it kind of fell to pieces.
Yeah, the three big elements of that team was not let Kog'Maw, Jax, and Anivia really get going. It seemed like they focused on Jax. Wicked actually died, or was pushed away from his tower for the first dragon. Couldn't then TP back in, which Xaxus had his teleport available. They were able to come in, take the first dragon without any problems whatsoever. But they still let Kog'Maw get going. They still didn't shut down Anivia fast enough, and I think it's hard to call which target out of those three were the most valuable to shut down. In the end, though, I think Anivia's got to be your target at some point. It's when someone like Froggen is playing Anivia, he's going to be strong.
Absolutely, and let's actually take a closer look at how both teams played the team fights, because we have a replay that we can bring up at the screen right now as both teams contest that dragon.
Yeah, so 23 minutes on the clock. This is the third dragon of the game. If you notice at this stage already, Alliance have got themselves a gold lead. ROCCAT are behind on towers. They're even on dragons. And the main thing to keep note of is the mini-map. Take a look at how ROCCAT commit to this fight through drips and drabs. So let's roll this clip out, and you'll notice that Alliance have got better positioning on dragon. They've already started it. ROCCAT have committed to the fight because that's a teleport coming in from Wicked in the middle of the ROCCAT lines. But ROCCAT are completely split. Wicked has such good positioning on that ward teleport that he's pulled all of ROCCAT's focus, and now Alliance are just better grouped, better knit. ROCCAT got caught out of position. They picked the fight. Earlier than this, we actually seen the replay at the end of the game of them chasing through the Dragon Pit. We seen them chasing in the top lane. ROCCAT got desperate, and they made risky calls.
Yeah, there was no ever real, I think the officials say, no real offensive Twisted Fate play. It was used mostly defensive, except the one up by the Baron Pit where they just went far, far, far too deep and ended up losing. I think that was where Tab picked himself up a double kill as well. So really well played by Alliance.
Yeah, too bad for ROCCAT, but indeed very crisp play by Alliance once again. For now, we're going to hear what you guys at home had to say, because at the top of the show, we asked you to tweet and let us know who would be your first fantasy draft pick from the LCS and why. And here are some of your fantastic answers. The first one is from @RubenVLB. I'd pick Mr. Raleigh. He has been getting huge amounts of points in the first 2 weeks, and he won't stop breaking them in.
Yeah, I actually picked him in my very first draft. I didn't need a week 3 Twitter question to theoretically redraft him. And he's been doing me okay, but unfortunately hasn't won me any games, so he's got to pick it up.
And that's in, by the way, a team which is not in the important caster league. Deficio was actually just on his feet there screaming, no, 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 I've got it.
The second one is from @It'sDanTran. Froggen would be my first pick. Despite a rough start in the EU Spring Split, he's shown great consistency.
I think we just saw it there again. I mean, Alliance are pretty much a safe bet right now in terms of a first pick. I think Froggen is really as good as anyone that's going to pick you up points. Even when they'd had a rough start, a ropey start last split, he was still consistent. He was still doing very well for them.
And the last tweet is from @Solovki. Selfie! Not only does he average over 23 points a game, he's gotten over 20 points in a game without fail. Now that's consistency.
It really is for 6 games. So it's a small sample size. We'll see if we can keep it up. I've got high hopes for him because he's definitely playing a lot better than he did in spring.
Yep. Thank you guys for sending those to us. And remember, you can form your own team and draft pros along with everyone else in the Fantasy LCS. Just head to fantasy.lolesports.com for all the information, and maybe you can become a Banana King as well. Now let's send it back over to D&D at the desk for our next match.